Let's go. Yo. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast. And that's facts.
What up, everybody? What up, Chicagoland, Bears fans? I'm Dustin Crafty Jones. I'm being here by myself tonight. I'm coming to you from 4 Stars, 4 Star Chicago Sports Podcast, representing Chicago Sports Podcast. That intro was pretty sweet, Trax. I like that. So we're here just to touch on Thomas Brown, guys. And I mean, I got a lot of good feelings about this guy. So we want to get into that. If you guys are going to be in here, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and give us some comments, man. Give me some comments. I'll shout you out. We can talk about how we feel about Thomas Brown here. What up, Jeremy Munoz? How we doing, boss? Thanks for joining us. Trax is in here with us. Bear down, guys. So Thomas Brown is our head coach, interim head coach for the next 5 games. And when you think about where he's come from to where he is right now, it's pretty insane, right? He was the passing game coordinator just a month ago, and he was the offensive coordinator for 3 weeks, and now he's the head coach. So it's a pretty meteoric rise for him. It's got to be a lot for him to handle. So these next 5 games are going to be a whirlwind for him. It's going to be about him grabbing that opportunity by the horns and really trying to make the best of it. The Bears have acknowledged that the odds are stacked against him. It's a tough position for him to be in. That being said, if he wins enough games, he's going to make them think about it, and if he wins enough games, given the situation he's in, you really should have him in consideration for your next head coach. What up, Trax? How we doing? What got us here, right? Matt Eberflus took a shit in the middle of Hollis Hall and left. Basically, the guy, he froze in every big situation. The Bears lost multiple games because of his lack of being prepared and lack of communication. I mean, there's just a litany of things that got us here to this point. The locker room change is going to be pretty crazy, a pretty crazy change, I think, from what it was with Eberflus. We just had Jalen Johnson on the Score yesterday talking about how he stood up and said what he needed to say, right, to Matt Eberflus and to everyone in the middle of Matt Eberflus trying to talk, and it was falling on deaf ears from all accounts. The locker room had given up on this guy. You go back to that Washington Commanders game, and he screwed the pooch. He allowed them to get into Hail Mary range. He didn't call the timeout before that last play to reset his defense. He just kind of really let these guys down. These players have felt like they're performing well enough to win games, and the coach was not living up to his end of the bargain, and he wasn't taking accountability. So flip that to Thomas Brown. Matt Eberflus is gone, right? They made the right decision in firing him. I'm not necessarily in agreement with how they did it, but that's in the past. He's no longer a head coach. Thomas Brown is. Accountability seems to be a strong suit for Thomas Brown, guys. His energy level is extremely high. When he talks, I actually want to listen to what he has to say. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually intrigued by what he has to say. Whereas with Eberflus, I will watch to find out what ridiculous, hilarious shit is this dude about to say today that I can make fun of. That's why I watched Eberflus talk. Keith Sperry says Bears are going to win out. Thanks for joining us, Keith. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But no, yeah, that's why I watch Matt Eberflus talk. I watch Thomas Brown talk, and I'm inspired. This is a guy who understands how huge this opportunity is that he's getting. He's a guy who understands the gravity of the situation in terms of turning this locker room around and getting this team on track. And he's a guy that seems to understand that he's got a lot of talent on this roster. He's excited for this, guys. And I think as Bears fans, we should really be excited too. I mean, if we had finished out the season with Eberflus, it would have been a completely different feeling than it is for me. I mean, obviously the season is done. We need to be looking to the future. But a big part of that future is, how does Thomas Brown perform in his role as interim head coach? And how does that impact Caleb Williams in his role as our franchise quarterback? You know, if those two things develop over these next 5 games, then we have something to really look forward to, I think, in Chicago, and something to really get excited about. So I think it's great that they made this decision. The Bears finally decided to fire a head coach in the middle of a season. First time they've done that in 103 years or whatever, right? So is that signaling change in this franchise in terms of how it makes its decisions? And then putting Thomas Brown in that position, is that signaling change, you know, because Thomas Brown is the youngest guy on this team. They clearly want to give him a tryout. They want to give him a shot at earning this job. And he was a guy that they identified over Eric Washington or Kerry Joseph or whoever else it might have been in terms of getting that opportunity. So are things changing here in Hollis Hall? I don't know about all that yet, but I do know that Thomas Brown, I think he's capable, guys. So then what we're talking about is, what does capable mean? How many wins are you trying to see from a Thomas Brown? How many wins do you expect to see from a Thomas Brown in his role as the interim head coach for the Chicago Bears over these last 5 games? You got the Niners, you got the Packers at the end of the season, right? You got the Seahawks right before that. You got the Vikings and the Lions. You got 3 divisional games here that are going to be hugely important. And they just took 3 divisional teams down to the wire in the Packers, Lions, and Vikings. And they could have won those games if it weren't for the coaching. So I think just swapping out a competent person for Matt Eberflus is going to make a huge difference, because this roster is talented, guys. It does have the talent to compete. Keith Sperry says Brown has produced and progressed Williams better in 3 games than Waldron has half the season with the Waldron playbook. That's a very good point, Keith. 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games for Caleb Williams. The 4 games before that, 0 touchdowns. The impact that he has made, Thomas Brown, on this offense is a huge one. They went from averaging 18 points a game to 22 points a game since Thomas Brown has taken over. You know, still not setting the world on fire, but you see a competent offense. You see Keenan Allen getting involved since Thomas Brown has took over, and heavily involved, right? You see DJ Moore getting heavily involved, getting targeted 16 times this past Sunday. You see Caleb Williams progressing. So he has done these things as the offensive coordinator that really give you some confidence in him. But then the question becomes, you know, you go from being the offensive coordinator in the booth upstairs, just calling the game, to now you're going to be down on the sideline. You're responsible for every person on the field, every major decision. You're also responsible for calling the plays, and you're taking yourself into a different environment. So how is that going to impact Thomas Brown, and how is he going to handle that? I think that's the major question, right? I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, but I'm concerned about whether or not Thomas Brown is going to be able to handle that, and how well he's going to be able to handle it. It's going to be a completely different vantage point for him. It's going to be a completely different role of responsibilities for him. I think he's really going to have to lean on his assistants. Let Eric Washington just take care of the defense. You know, you got to make sure you're involved in it, but you can't spin too many plates in his position. You know, like I said, go from passing game coordinator 4 weeks ago to the head coach now. His head's got to still be spinning, you know. So I think he's a capable dude. He's going to wrap his head around this, but he's really going to have to lean on his staff, with Chris Beatty as the new offensive coordinator, right? And Kerry Joseph as your quarterbacks coach, Morton as your running backs coach. I mean, you have some assistants here that you can lean on this coaching staff. And Thomas Brown, if he's smart, if he wants to show that he should be considered for this job when the season is over, he should prove that he can delegate to these guys, that he can lean on his guys and trust his guys to get their jobs done while he oversees it all. That's what a Matt Eberflus could not do, guys. He wouldn't let go of the defensive play calling, because that's what showed his value. And he wouldn't give those up and delegate and just show that he could be the leader of a football team. That's what we need. Jeremy Munoz says Tomlin light. Tomlin light. I get Tomlin vibes from Thomas Brown for sure. And like, if he does well and the Bears move on from him, you'll wonder where he's going to go and what he's going to do. Like, is he going to be something special, that another special opportunity that the Bears miss out on and they make the wrong choice? So then it really comes to the question being, how many games does Thomas Brown have to win in order to even get considered for this job? I think he's going to get an interview regardless, right? They put him in this position. And when Poles and Warren were describing what they were looking for in a head coach, it sounded very similar to when they were describing the traits of Thomas Brown. So they obviously have an affinity for the guy and they want to give him a shot. So he's going to get an interview. But how many games do we think the Bears are going to win with Thomas Brown taking over? I'm thinking 3-2, guys. I think they can beat the Niners this week. I think they can beat the Seahawks. And I think they'll win one of those divisional games. The Vikings are right for the taking, and the Lions are too. They got the Lions at home. So, I mean, that they could have won any of those games. They could have won all 3 of those games. So 3-2 does not seem unachievable to me. 3-2 seems very probable. And that's something that this team will have to look at and say, hey, this guy took this roster that was not performing well, that was not winning games they should have won, and he turned it around and was over 500 these last 5 games. But then how many do you think he must win to be considered? Is it those 3 games? Or does he have to win 4 or 5? Does he have to go 5-0 to make it to where the Bears don't have a chance to even consider someone else? Because I'll say this, man. Thomas Brown is on my list over Ben Johnson. Thomas Brown is way over Cliff Kingsbury in my mind. I would much rather see what Thomas Brown has. I think he's in the catbird seat when he's being compared to these other offensive coordinators, because he's been an offensive coordinator for Caleb Williams. He's developing the trust, right? He's developing the relationship with the most important piece of our franchise, which is Caleb Williams. So he's got that leg up on these guys already. What if they go 5-0? It's just, do we interview everyone else? Do we interview anyone else? Is Thomas Brown just the guy? There's so many questions here, guys. There's so many questions here. We're coming into a crazy part of the season, something we've never seen as Bears fans. I think we all need to just sit back and enjoy it and be excited about it, okay? When it comes to our sponsors, guys, we got Bridges Scoreboard in Griffith, Indiana. Tracks will be there this weekend. Please go check them out. Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor in Griffith, Indiana, right across the street from them over there. Elite Icons, Framing and Memorabilia. Chicago Sports Podcast. Shout out to Brandon Tracks, man. Great setup for tonight. You know, this is going to be a quick show, just me on my own. I'm about to call it a day, guys. I really appreciate y'all joining me. Hopefully it gives you something to think about. I'm sorry we couldn't get into it too much. El Bandito Yankee tequila, delicious tequila. Check them out, guys. TC's World of Wonders for all your Chicago sports jerseys and memorabilia. And then check out River Street as well in East Dundee. 4-Star Chicago Sports is where you guys can find me. I'm on Monday nights, Hollis Hall Hangover with the rest of my guys. Thursday nights we're on Late Night, me and Brandon. We got Chicago Sports Podcast coming back to you again tomorrow. We got 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast coming to you tomorrow as well with another show, a preview of the upcoming games. We appreciate all y'all. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for joining us and showing the love, as Trax says. Y'all are awesome. It wouldn't be doing this without y'all. So, hey, Thomas Brown is our head coach. I'm excited. You should be excited too. Let's root for some Bears victories here. Let's get some positive vibes going, and let's see how we can finish this season. If we can finish it strong and have something to look forward to as Bears fans, guys. We love all y'all. Thanks for coming out. Bear down.